Alan Watts was a poser. Tried to co-opt Krishnamurti. This dude put up a video showing Alan Watts attempting to co-opt Krishnamurti. He got a lot of pushback from ignorant posers.
One is always very hesitant in acknowledging any debt to Krishnaji because he so hates the idea of having any disciples.
Yes.
But I, for my part, feel that he is one of the most original and profound thinkers in the world, because he's always a bit unexpected. He's never in the ordinary ruts of a religious or psychotherapeutic thinking.
Well, the trouble is that the trouble is not the trouble. The point is that that is what he is, but he does not give any way to get there, and that is the great thing, you see. People said, well, how am I going to do that? And you know that he really was very, very angry at me when I wrote that book, you know, You Are Not the Target, with recipes of techniques. I thought that I was very innocent, and I told him about it with great pleasure. And, he was quite violent about it.
Oh, you tell that story in your book, though,
yes,
really, don't you?
Yes, and yes, because I spoke about this during a lunch, and then we were alone, and he looked at me very, very intensely. And he said, you know, all these people that go around helping other people, I think they are a curse. Looking at me. I was so shaken, but after a few seconds, I found myself, and I said, what do you think you are doing? And his answer was so delightful. He said, oh, but I don't do it on purpose. And that was something that Aldous just adored, this thing. I don't do it on purpose, you know. It was so clear to Aldous what he meant. But it's not clear to everyone because it's not easy, really.
That was the conversation, wasn't it? That, again, it's reported in your book.
I had already located months back that Erich Fromm did not have a good impression of Alan Watts. He didn't respect him. There was one excerpt in which it was clear Fromm was referring to Watts, and in another one, it seemed fairly obvious he was referring to Watts.
The question was that I have sympathies with Zen, and that it's often said that the Zen man is beyond good and evil. Well, I don't consider myself an authority of Zen, hence I really cannot make responsibly a statement about Zen. But I have read many books about Zen. I had the privilege of having many conversations with Dr. Suzuki, and I indeed believe that the idea that, which for instance Mr. Watts has expressed in recently, that Zen is just a technique and has nothing to do with good and evil, this is not the Zen I have read, and this is not the Zen I have learned from Dr. Suzuki. I think the Zen is basically a Buddhist development, and Buddhism is not beyond good and evil. Buddhism is based on the compassion of man with all sentient beings, of a sense of identity with all life, which is not at all a technique of certain kinds of perceptions. Now, it is clear that Zen has often been misused by, in Japan, by certain social classes for their purposes. So has Christianity, so has every religion. It is also clear that Zen, at least to me it is clear, that Zen does not primarily think in moral terms, but that Zen primarily thinks in terms of a transformation which creates certain attitudes to the world, which then have not to be acted upon as a duty, but as a natural consequence of a change in a person. I'm sure there are many problems in that, and I have often discussed them with Dr. Suzuki, but I personally believe that the attitude of Mr. Watts, namely that Zen is just a technique, and that those who expect any moral element in it are just not understanding it, I cannot argue with him, because certainly he knows more about Zen than I do, but it certainly is not what I have understood from my knowledge of Zen.
Eric Fromm was also into Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, I imagine. Here's a clip of him talking down Alan Watts. So he's against Alan Watts somehow. He was saying he just goes for the surface. Eric Fromm did not seem to respect Alan Watts. That's breaking news that only someone like myself would ever mention. I'm not putting myself up on a pedestal. I'm just telling the truth here. Okay, I better grab a little bit of that clip to prove I'm not just making stuff up. I notice things and I'm kind of clever, so I don't know where I'm headed with this shtick.
In a completely commercialized society in which salability and optimal profit constitute the core values, and in which every person experiences himself as capital that he has to invest on the market with the aim of optimal profit, success, his inner value counts as little as that of a dental cream or a patent medicine. Whether he is kind, intelligent, productive, courageous, matters little if these qualities have not been of use to make him successful. On the other hand, if he is only mediocre as a person, writer, artist, or whatever, and is a narcissistic, aggressive, drunken, obscene headline maker, he will, given some talent, easily become one of the leading artists or writers of the day. Of course, not only he is involved. The art dealers, literary agents, PR men, publishers, all are interested financially in his success. He is made by them, and once he is a nationally advertised writer, painter, singer, once he is a celebrity, he is a great man, just as the soap powder is the best, whose name you cannot help remembering if you are a TV viewer.
So this guy puts up a video. Watts got some pushback from Huxley's wife. People in the comments did not appreciate the title made by the YouTuber, but it was quite accurate. Alan Watts was a performer. He made money off of spirituality. He was perhaps the best of the best for the grifter. He did provide a service as a grifter. It's debatable how much of a service he provided. I wouldn't say Buddhism is exactly rocket science. Krishnamurti would come out and say the word is not the thing. Alan Watts was in love with words. He couldn't get enough of them. He made it seem that words could think one's way through life into enlightenment. Alan Watts liked to talk about Krishnamurti. I heard him at least a few times bring his name up. He would call him such a clever guy to say he's not the guru, that he's an anti-guru. Watts completely missed the point. He just wanted a piece of Krishnamurti's gravitas.
You met Krishnamurti, huh?
Oh, yes, I know him quite well.
Now, I'm thinking about, I was young, you were young too, when I first heard of Annie Besant.
Yes.
Well, see, I suppose we have to ask a question. Here's Annie Besant of the Western world. What made someone like her seek out Krishnamurti?
Well, she was thrilled with her discovery of Indian religion and with the idea that there are divine people living and moving among us, masters, as she called them. And this is, I mean, a matter of course to Hindus, that there are people who are awakened, who are Christs, even from birth. And this fascinated her very much. And she wanted close association with one of these. And she looked around and she found this obviously incredible boy and made out that he was the new Messiah. But the funny thing about Krishnaji is he did just what a real Messiah would do, and that is he renounced the office. And therefore everybody said, well, sure, he must be it, because he behaved accordingly.
You know, Alan, I'm thinking, as you're laughing, there is this gnawing question. If there are so many Christs in India, if I could just switch gods around and about, a god like people around and about, so many messiahs in India, how come situation is so rotten for the great many millions in India today?
Well, don't forget, this is an extremely ancient civilization which has been exploited by conquerors for 500 years, first the Muslim invaders, then the British. Everybody exploited India.
So that in a nutshell is why I made today's video, this video. Got basically 3 or 4 clips to share. I've got Alan Watts referring to Krishnamurti in 2 separate instances. One, he's being interviewed by Studs Terkel. The other one, Alan Watts was in dialogue with Huxley's wife. There's one photo of Alan Watts with Krishnamurti, but so what? They were in the same area. It's not that difficult to take a photo with someone. It doesn't mean anything. There's no meeting anywhere between the two. Krishnamurti met with lots of people. If he had respect for Alan Watts, he would have done a session with him. That he didn't means they were not close at all, picture or no picture. I'll also put into this video the Erich Fromm stuff for posterity.
A lot of them have done that to me. Naomi Klein,
yes.
Noam Chomsky,
Yeah.
Gloria Allbright. There's all these people that I look to, and
Yeah. It's just like, really?
They think it's legal to be COINTELPRO agents. That's exactly what's going on.
It could be normal. You know, you may have stress, not sleep, get really angry, then you could have twitching. Or drink too much coffee, or cocaine, or E.
Noam Chomsky.
I am not a career spook.
10500-ish. Stevie faking expressions. Joy staring at her. That's the creepiest part of their shows. They're just often staring at the other person.
It's not necessarily anything but the oligarch and the wealthy are the ones who are going to select the person that's going to represent this country and put them in the presidency. I mean, Kamala Harris, really? You know, so that's...
It's not necessarily anything but the oligarch and the wealthy are the ones who are going to select the person that's going to represent this country and put them in the presidency. I mean, Kamala Harris, really? You know, so that's where I'm at.
They're not listening really closely to what they're saying. They're doing what they can to get through the shift. Myself, I don't know when I'm ending up doing these. I'm an internet addict. I'm an aspie. I get by on just the basics, and I'm happy with that. I can deal with that.
Noam Chomsky.
I am not a career spook. I am not a career spook.
It could be normal. You know, you may have stress, not sleep, get really angry, then you could have twitching. Or drink too much coffee, or cocaine, or E.
Noam Chomsky.
Having trouble wrapping my mind around the phrase Smith-Munt. But that stuff, the legalization of propaganda. Okay, at 1:08-ish, Shanda laughing at Joy's talking mental health. I do remember that Joy mentioned cutting and how some people have it rough and they do self-damage. And I wrote down that Shanda was laughing. You see these people's real color. She called Chomsky Norm. She wasn't joking. It wasn't some innocent mistake. No one would ever call Noam Chomsky Norm. That is the most ridiculous moment of them all.
Shanda's got the mind thing going on there, and you want to read that before we get going? What does that say?
It says understanding each other without words.
That's me and Shanda. We share a brain.
We're even having the same tooth pulled this week.
Yeah. I got mine pulled before she did. So what is this clip you've got here?
I came across this. This is Clinton's attorney admitting that the 2020 election had issues with the voting machine.
Oh my gosh, a mea culpa.